Daf Yomi Tractate Zevachim, page 99b, with the top, close to the top, maybe line in, with the words Utame Magrefa Lasal, those words. The Gemara challenges the ruling of the Braita. Utame Magrefa Lasal, Ein Kli Metame Kli, Sitame Ma Shibetocho Maraba Be'omar Shmartiha Midavar hamitama velo shmartia midavar paposla. The Gemara challenges the ruling of the Braita, but wouldn't the shovel render the basket impure? The Gemara answers, there is a principle that a vessel does not render another vessel ritually impure. The Gemara challenges, but wouldn't the shovel render that which is in the basket, meaning the figs, impure? Rava said the case is where he says, I safeguarded it, the shovel, from anything that would allow it to render another item impure, but I did not safeguard it from anything that would render it itself unfit, meaning impure. Igalgal milsa umatai lekamed Rabbi Abba bar Mamel Amalahu lo shemiyalahu hoda mavriochan Rabbi. The Gemara returns to discuss the contradiction between the Mishnah, which permits an acute mourner to touch sacrificial meat, and the Mishnah in Chagiga, which requires him to immerse. The Gemara relates, the matter circulated and came before Rabbi Abba bar Mama. He said to the sages before him, have they not heard that which Rabbi Yochanan says, that Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi says, one who partakes of truma that has a third degree impurity, meaning truma disqualified through contact with an item with second degree impurity, is prohibited from partaking of truma, but permitted to touch truma. Alma bechila avud rabbanan marab baniya lo avud rabbanan marab. Rabbi Alma bar Mama continued, apparently in the case of partaking, the sages imposed a higher standard, whereas in a case of touching, the sages did not impose a higher standard. Similarly, in the case of an acute mourner, the sages require him to immerse before he may partake of sacrificial meat, as taught in Tractate Chagiga, but they do not impose this standard for touching the meat, as taught in the Mishnah here. The Mishnah teaches with regard to an acute mourner, and he does not receive a share of sacrificial meat in order to partake of it in the evening. The Gemara comments, the Mishnah indicates only that he may not receive a share of the meat, but when other priests invite him to join in their portions, he may partake of them in the evening. And the Gemara raises a contradiction from a Mishnah, Psachim 91b. An acute mourner immerses and partakes of his paschal offering in the evening, but he may not partake of other sacrificial meat. Rabbi Yirmiyah of Divni said, this is not difficult. Here the ruling of the Mishnah is stated with regard to the first night of Passover, whereas there in Tractate Psachim, the ruling of the Mishnah is stated with regard to the rest of the days of the year. What is the reason for the distinction between the two? On the first night of Passover, since he partakes of the paschal offering, he may also partake of other sacrificial meat, but on the rest of the days of the year, when he is unfit to partake of sacrificial meat, he is unfit. But what does the Mishnah in Psachim mean when it states, but he may not partake of their other sacrificial meat? It means, but he may not partake of sacrificial meat of all the rest of the year, other than the first night of Passover. Rabbi Asi Amar lo Kashya, kan shemeis lo meis be'abo asar k'vara b'asar, kan shemeis lo meis b'shlosh asar k'vara b'asar, yom l'kfura. Rav Asi said there is a different resolution to the contradiction between the Mishnayot. This is not difficult. Here, in the ruling of the Mishnah tractate Pesachim, which prohibits an acute mourner from partaking of sacrificial meat, is referring to a case where his relative died on the 14th day of Nisan, and he buried him on the 14th itself, in which case he is still considered an acute mourner by rabbinic law that evening. There, in the ruling of the Mishnah in this chapter, is referring to a case where his relative died on the 13th of Nisan, and he buried him on the 14th of Nisan. The reason the mourner may partake is that since the day of burial is not the day of death, it does not take hold of its following night by rabbinic law. Man tana aninus laila min rabbanan b'shimoni etanyan aninus laila min dever Torah dever Yehuda Rabbi Shimon Omer onen dever Torah el dever Zevachim Teda asher amon hoyev v'ochel pischo el yarev aval lo b'kadoshim. The Gemara clarifies who is the Tana who taught that acute mourning the following night is by rabbinic law as opposed to by Torah law. This is the opinion of Rabbi Shimon, as it's taught in Brayta. Acute mourning at night is by Torah law. This is the statement of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Shimon says the status as an acute mourner at night is not by Torah law, but by rabbinic law. No, this is so, as the sages said. An acute mourner immerses and partakes of his paschal offering in the evening, but he may still not partake of other sacrificial meat. If acute mourning at night were by Torah law, he would not be permitted to partake of the paschal offering. V'savar Rabbi Shimon aninus laila mil'olam. V'savar Rabbi Shimon aninus laila mil'olam. V'tanya Rabbi Shimon omer, onen eno meshalech korbanotavv ma'ilav afilu b'pesach la devarim pesach. The Gemara asks, and does Rabbi Shimon hold that acute mourning at night is by rabbinic law, and that consequently an acute mourner partakes of his paschal offering in the evening? In his paschal offering in the evening? But isn't time to Brayta? Rabbi Shimon says the acute mourner does not send his offerings to the temple to be sacrificed. What? Is it not referring even to paschal offering? The Gemara rejects this. No, the Brayta is referring to all offerings other than a paschal offering. V'atanya Rabbi Shimon omer, Shlamim keshu shlemi ve'eno mevi keshu oinim minayim l'rabbo eses hatohida merabi ani besetoira shekein nechades besimcha k'shlamim. The Gemara counters, but isn't it taught in a Brayta with regard to the verse, and if his offering be a sacrifice of peace offerings, Shlamim, Leviticus 3:1, Rabbi Shimon says the offering is called Shlamim to teach that when a person is whole, Shalem, meaning in a state of contentment, he brings his offering, but he does not bring it when he's an acute mourner. From where is it derived to include that acute mourner does not bring even a thanks offering? I include the thanks offering because it is consumed in a state of joy, like a peace offering. Minayin l'rabbo yises oilam rabbi ani yes oilam shekein ba'al b'nedel b'dabik v'shlamim. Minayin l'rabbo yispechal ובמעשר בפסח מרבה אני בכל ומעשר בפסח שכן אינן באים על חטא מניין רב ישחטס ויושם תמנו בזבח. From where is it derived that the verse also serves to include a burnt offering? I include the burnt offering because it comes as a vow offering and as a gift offering, like a peace offering. From where is it derived that the verse also serves to include a firstborn offering and an animal tithe offering and a paschal offering, which are not brought voluntarily? I include firstborn offering and an animal tithe offering and a paschal offering because they too, like a peace offering, do not come to atone for sin. From where is it derived to include a sin offering and a guilt offering, which atone for sins? The verse states, and if his offering be a sacrifice of peace offerings, which teaches that an acute mourner may not sacrifice any slaughtered offering. Minayin l'rabos Ovis benachos v'yayin v'etzu v'alavoina tamudama shlamim karban kol korbanos shumevi keshu shalem mevi v'eno mevi keshu oinin. From where is it derived to include even the burnt offerings and the meal offerings and the wine and the wood and the frankincense brought in the temple service? The verse states, and if his offering be a sacrifice of peace offerings, teaching that all offerings korbanot that a person brings, he brings them when he is whole, shalem, but he does not bring them when he is acute mourner. Katani Niyah Pesach, the Lord explains, in any event, Rabbi Shimon teaches that it is prohibited for an acute mourner to bring a paschal offering, even though he will cease to be an acute mourner that night. This contradicts the first Braita. Amar Chizda Pesach Kedei Nazbe. Rav Chizda said the latter Braita mentions the paschal offering for no purpose. In other words, the halacha that an acute mourner does not bring an acute offering does not actually apply to a paschal offering, and the Braita mentions it only out of habit, since the firstborn animal offering, the animal tithe offering, and paschal offering are frequently mentioned together. Rav Sheishes Amar Mai Pesach Shomei Pesach Ihachi Hainu Shlahimim Tana Shlamim by Machmas Pesach Utana Shlamim by Machmas Atzman. Rav Sheishes said, what is meant by this Braita that the term paschal offering is referring to the peace offerings of Passover, meaning the peace offering that is sacrificed along with the paschal offering. The Gemara objects. If so, that is the same as a peace offering, which Rabbi Shimon already mentioned. The Gemara answers, he taught the halacha with regard to peace offerings that come on account of the paschal offering, and he taught separately the halacha with regard to peace offerings that come on their own account. The Gemara explains, Rabbi Shimon needed to teach both cases explicitly because if he did not teach the halacha with regard to peace offerings that come on account of the paschal offering, it would enter your mind to say, since they come on account of the paschal offering, they are considered like the paschal offering itself, and the acute mourner offers them as well. Therefore, Rabbi Shimon teaches us that these peace offerings are also forbidden to an acute mourner. Rabbi Mari said a different resolution to the contradiction between the statements of Rabbi Shimon.